Tess the Musical.
Tess the Musical.
Tess the Musical.
Tess the Musical.
Tess of the what?
Tess of the D'Urbervilles. That's right, you're here with the Breaker Leggers at a very special report. We're at the launch of a brand new British musical, Tess the Musical, based on the Thomas Hardy novel, Tess of the D'Urbervilles.
So stay tuned because we're going to be chatting with the composer, the writer, the producer, and some of the cast that were involved in the concept album. Before you lovely people go any further,
To make sure you've always got your finger on the theatrical pulse,
for theatre news, reviews, and interviews,
hit subscribe now.
yeah, hit subscribe.
I mean,
now.
this is a bit of an exclusive. We're so excited to be having this.
Yeah, a bit of a change for us. We do our podcast, which you can look at in our back catalogue, and we review theatre. We've got the odd interview, but this is a bit of a special one because it's a brand new British musical concept album. This event is the launch of that album.
Yeah, and it's got some amazing names. Tam Mutu, who has played Phantom of the Opera. He was understudy for Ramin Karimloo in Love Never Dies.
Dr. Zhivago on Broadway, the musical.
And he's also done Les Mis, playing Javert. I mean, he's huge. We saw him in City of Angels at the Donmar as well, and he is a great talent. Also, Siobhan Dillon is on this concept album.
Yeah, she's done some fantastic things as well.
Yeah, she made her name on the How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria programme, and since then she's gone on to be a West End star in Ghost, Legally Blonde at the Savoy with Sheridan Smith, and most recently she did Sunset Boulevard at the ENO with Glenn Close and went over to Broadway with it. I mean, wow.
There's Jacqueline Tate as well, who is currently in the West End, probably right now as we're speaking, playing Madame Thénardier in Les Miserables at the Queen's Theatre.
And it's such a long show, she probably is still on
She
stage.
probably still is on stage.
No, stop 1 second, because you're not giving himself any credit. Another featured voice in the role of Groby on Tess the Musical is our very own Lega Nathan.
Yes, I was invited to be a part of this concept album, which, you know, is quite exciting. I guess that's what's quite exciting for me, for us to be here, is the British musical, or musicals in general. Once you have the idea, how do you get that out there? And that's what I'm interested in asking some of the creatives involved in this. A British musical idea, where does it come from? How do you put pen to paper? This is a collaboration, a concept album. How do you produce it? These are just things I want to know.
And there must be a lot of you out there that know the story of Tess of the D'Urbervilles, and to have it in such an interesting new medium is a really exciting thing, and we'll tell you a little bit more about how you can hear it later on.
So let's roll the interviews.
He's Michael Blore and is the composer.
He's Michael Davis, and he does fantastic words.
We wanted something that was going to be a powerful story, preferably something that people would recognise, might know, might have read. Lots of people know Tess from school. That's where I first read it. We finally settled on it after talking around a few ideas, but it seemed to have all the elements that we were looking for.
And for me, it was the story that I do remember from teenage, and I'd also seen the film with Natasha Kinski, and it was a story that just sort of lasts, and it had a great appeal to come back and revisit that sort of story and see what the power of it was, and see if we could do something with that sort of story.
Okay, so you decided on the story. What came first? I guess this is always the question. The music or the lyrics? Or how did you then create Tess once you decided that?
Well, it was a really interesting process, and it didn't work out how I thought it was going to when we first started. I thought it might be that we would both do a bit of everything, actually. And then it quickly became clear, I think with the first one or two numbers that we started working on, that actually Michael's music was of a particular style, there's a grandeur to it, there's a kind of epic scale to it. So I was very happy at that point, and to kind of back off and say, okay,
You know what you're doing
I think
here.
you need to do this, because yeah, you know what you do, absolutely.
He's being very gracious. We spent the first 2 months looking at the story, and that was
we did actually.
We spent a long time really just filleting the story. Really, you
making sure we got the narrative of the whole show right before we ever really did any writing.
Yeah. So Mike doing that made my job a lot easier when it came to the musical composition. I knew the story to follow because of the work that he had done.
So then, with one or two exceptions, where I had a very clear idea of what I wanted the lyric to be and gave that to Michael, most of the show was working from that original story narrative. There was a 10-page document that was really clear about each beat of the story. And Michael then just delivered a story.
Wow.
And it was, for me, it was great because it combined my love of music, but also crossword puzzles. I'm a big fan.
Oh, really?
So it's kind of like fitting words to tell the story, but to make it work with the musical line that was there.
So marry me, we can stand together, heads held high, and look at passers-by, and never have to reason why, if we seal it all with just one kiss, we can sit here with just one kiss.
I had a vision for the musical language that I wanted to use. I wanted something that was certainly accessible to as many people as possible, but also music that I like to listen to. I think as a composer, you've got to write something that you enjoy, and then the caveat of that is someone else enjoying it too. And when they do that, it's not only a great honour, but it's a great relief as well.
Sure.
But there are certain styles of music that you can write that do have a bigger appeal, and so I always wanted that approach for Tess, as well as being this sweeping, epic, romantic musical landscape that I tried to capture.
That's a really good description, a sweeping, epic kind of landscape to describe that. And that is
And he's
kind
the
of
composer, I'm the lyricist.
But that is what you kind of think of when you think of the title, Tess the Musical, and that kind of landscape that is the piece. So it's really interesting.
We had early conversations about this, and said to Mike, what sort of music would you like for Tess? I can write in certain styles, I know what I'd like, but if you want something that's, say, Vaughan Williams pastoral, it's not really my sort of thing. If you want something that's a bit more ballad-inspired and romantic, then I'm your guy. So here are a few songs, do you like them? Luckily he said yes, and we were away, really.
You could write a kind of pastiche show, a bit like Lloyd Webber or a bit like Goodwin and Schoenberg, but actually, if you're going to write something original, why not write something original? And while there are lots of flavours and voices and echoes of all sorts of strange and weird and wonderful things going on in the score, it is, I think as you say, it is kind of, it's its own thing.
Yes.
From idea to score to now a concept album, what was the driving force to choosing to do a concept album?
I think because of the scale of the music and the romantic kick of that music, I didn't feel personally that doing a workshop with a piano would give it full justice. I think for a later date, yes, certainly. But for our sort of introduction to what we're trying to create, I thought the album would be a much better way to showcase what we're about and what our vision is.
So what challenges did doing a concept album present to you?
Did it throw up anything you weren't expecting?
Sadly, he had to work with me, so that's a big challenge.
Just working with each other.
Composer angst is an awful thing to have to deal with, so this man takes a lot of credit for putting up with a lot of hysterics.
In terms of the actual process, the scale of it, again, we're back to scale. It's not something that I'd ever worked on, that size of project before. So that in itself throws up challenges. Sunim has been extraordinary in the way that he's kind of brought everything together. But just in terms of sheer numbers, the size of the band, the size of the ensemble, we're very lucky to have had some wonderful soloists, but bringing all of that together and making it a kind of cohesive whole. was a massive challenge in itself.
Yeah.
Fortunately, not one that we particularly. Well, you did more of the work with Sunam than I did, but we were very lucky to find something.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, yes, on paper that would be a huge challenge. When you think that we're recording across 5 different studios with 21 artists, something I think it was.
Who were never in the same place at the same time.
So you imagine it's just going to be something that is beyond.
It seems
certainly
overwhelming.
beyond my remit. But having someone at the centre like Sunam who was keeping all these disparate parts together and keeping it together so well did make it a lot easier.
I mean, I remember recording my part, like it seemed in your head you could hear exactly where everybody was and knowing what was work and what was behind the beat and thinking, no, what we've already got, that won't fit with that, let's do that bit again. So having it all in your head, trying to translate that to the people you're working with, that must have been quite a bit of a feat. Patience, I think, must have been a key word.
We had skillful people. I could give a note and they would adapt to that note, and it just makes the job so much easier.
Well, fantastic. You've got your album.
Yeah, now that's there, what's next?
Well, obviously, what we want now is for Cameron McIntosh to take it on and
Yes,
put
we
it-
know you're a watcher, Cam.
Yes, Cam.
Sorry, Sir Cam.
Link below and we'll get you in touch. In fact, how do people get in touch?
Well, we have a website, testthemusical.com.
Okay.
You can actually hear the whole album on the website. You sign up for free, and we send you a link, and you can listen to the entire album on the web. The CD itself isn't commercially available. It was designed for promotional and marketing purposes. But that is now going in the process of going out to a lot of producers, people in the industry who we're hoping might want to develop it, take it on, and so somewhere down the line we actually see it on a stage somewhere.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
So do we just need to search Tess the Musical, stick that into Google, and it will come up?
Yep, should be number 1 on the rankings. We are.
So give that a look for, and give that
Yeah.
a search, sign up, and let us know what you think.
I know we can always also find you on Twitter, which you're
Yes,
pretty
and
good at.
Musical Tess,
Yep.
and hashtag Team Tess. So come and join Team Tess.
And Instagram, Tess the Musical. Pictures of this evening's party.
You've no excuse, guys. So follow them, because I'm sure this is going to go on to big things, and you can be right at the beginning of the journey with them.
With just one look, a passing glance, the moment comes to take a chance. And now my world is changing with one look of love.
So we were delighted to say that we have got Sunam here, who, okay, so explain to us your role on Tess.
Producer mainly, mediator, I guess, and just other ad hoc tasks.
Wow.
So it was basically my job to put all the sounds together and make it some kind of meaningful whole, which I hope it is.
So why a concept album? You know, there are many routes to market. I mean, this seems quite a challenging way of doing it. Why and how?
I mean, in some ways, it's a tried and tested form. Lloyd Webber did it with Avita,
Jesus Christ
Jesus Christ Superstar. They did it with Chess as well. So, you know, it's a good way of getting the album in a complete form and going to promoters and producers like, here, look, you can listen to the whole thing.
But surely from your point of view, a really challenging thing, because you don't have a start point. It's almost, you've got these bits and you've got a jigsaw with no finished picture. How did you put it together?
That's it. It's quite odd, because when I first got asked to do the concept album, I turned the Michaels down 5 times at first. But,
so perseverance paid off.
But I've got away, twisting your arm. So I finally said yes. But at that point, it was actually a choice of either I don't do it or I do it with, I spend all my free time on it, which is what I did. I was going to bed at stupid times and stuff, but it was quite weird because when I first started working on it, I could almost hear it as we hear it now. It was always complete in my head, even though I hadn't heard most of the show. I hadn't really heard any music, but we'd cut the demo and I'd got the vibe from it and stuff like that. So I think the picture was already painted in my head, even though I hadn't heard the score. It sounds really weird. But
no, and that's your musical genius then, isn't it? You managed to hear it before it's been sang. I mean,
so with that in mind, if you heard this kind of in your mind you could hear how the album would sound. What challenges did you come across while making the album?
Challenges, well, the first challenge was I said to Michaels that, okay, give me a year and I'll complete the album. It actually took a year and 5 months, but the less on that, the better.
What's 5 months between
yeah,
friends?
Yeah,
eh?
but it was kind of, you know, we had some big names involved, and it's trying to kind of work around their schedule, and also because I was working on other things at the time. I'm a bass player on shows myself, so that takes up quite a lot of my evenings and weekends. So I had to hire in some extra help. To help engineer the album and put it together, get the singers in the studio. So I think we had about 250 hours of recording time to schedule all together, which I even now, even after the project now completed, I can't comprehend how we actually did it.
Seems overwhelming.
That's
Yeah,
phenomenal.
and we got it all done in good time as well. I think it was only when it was on my shoulders when it came to post-production where it all just flew out of control, and I was like, look, I need more time on this. I cannot get it done in a year. Sorry, but no, we got there. I mean,
You had a lot of individual components to pull together.
yeah, and I think that was my main role in a way. I mean, I know that it's kind of like I did the mixing for the album and stuff, but I would say, especially in the early days, it was a lot of people management, I think, and trying to pull the right people together. It just sounds like a piece of music. It's not as though I felt like I've spent the past 2 years slaving over it, you know, and I think that it is a nice thing, you know. I can just sit back and go, right, yeah, that works.
And
that
you
actually
can
sounds
enjoy
how it's meant to sound, yeah.
Well, I mean, at least you'll get some of your life back a little bit now.
Yeah,
You can get
I
the-
have,
You
yeah.
can get the sleep you've been deprived of for the
Yeah,
past
oh
2
yeah,
or so
yeah,
years.
yeah.
Well, well done.
Yeah, well done.
Well
Thank
done
you,
on your
thank you,
achievement.
yeah.
And all the best
I
for
hope
everything
it's-
that happens
it's served its
next.
purpose.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is surely just the beginning.
Well, yeah, we shall see. I'm not sure what the next.
I will look
step
forward to
is,
hearing
but-
your next concept album.
Yeah.
My name's Nikki Claire Cross and I played Izzy the Dairymaid.
My name is John Griff in reality. I do have a singing past. Now I seem to have a singing present thanks to the two Michaels. I met them through my work. I work in radio and they were telling me about the concept and what they wanted to do. And after a fairly long conversation they said, well, do you want to come and sing on the album? To which the answer was, yes, of course. I hadn't recognised the fact that I would be singing in someone's wardrobe to be part of the album, but that's exactly what happened. And the results are now there for everybody to hear via the website, and if you're really lucky, on one of the limited edition CDs that now exist.
So how did you find doing the concept album, considering that you had no cast there with you?
It was very unusual because that's the first time I've ever done that. But you quickly get used to it, and Michael was there directing the whole time, so giving you pointers. So that was very helpful.
Well, in the first instance, you have to take the music, you have to rehearse by yourself, without an orchestra, without a click track, without any backing. Then you have to turn up at somebody's private house. You go up the back stairs into their spare room, and there, amongst acres of carpeting, is a wardrobe with a microphone in it. And then there's a keyboard and a producer and the two Michaels saying, right, go and sing. And about 45 minutes later, your part has been laid down, and months later you become part of the album. It was as simple as that. It was an absolute pleasure to be part of it.
With a creative process, usually when you've got a show, you've got rehearsal time, you get to know people. This is the first time you've met some of the people that are on the recording with you. How weird is that?
It's really bizarre. So sort of walking into a room, there are a few faces, you know, I recognise, but yeah, very strange. But nice to meet some new people, and yeah, I wouldn't have met them otherwise.
Such an interesting and unique experience. What are you taking away from this whole process? What's going to be your legacy on the Tess project?
First, it's a hit. Whatever anybody tells you, it's a hit. It's beautifully produced, it's absolutely professional. It's the sort of story that could really work, I would imagine, for schools as well as the West End. It could be a touring show. I think it's going to need a big stage. It's a big production. The music values are absolutely superb, and I think once you've heard it a couple of times, you'll very quickly start singing the themes yourself. And if you're singing the themes, the odds are somebody else is going to do the same thing. And if it gets into your mind and if it gets into your consciousness like that, it'll be with you for a very, very long time. That's the thing that really stuck out for me when I heard it.
What's been your lasting memory of the Tess journey so far?
Well, it's the West Country accent, and also the piggy snort, the famous piggy snort. which made it into the recording, which I'm very, very pleased about.
Something that you mentioned there that I never thought about, actually is really important, is actually this does have a massive amount of education appeal for schools as well, and telling this story in a different medium. I mean, how many kids are stuck reading a book that are bored, but presenting it in this musical medium, hopefully it means that it's going to sink in, and you're part of that.
Well, absolutely. Hardy's writing is, of course, studied in schools. Let's not forget where Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat came from. If it wasn't for schools, and how many of those have put their own performances on, what did that do for the creators of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat? I could certainly see this happening for Tess in due course, but I think first it's got to get a proper outing on the West End stage. If not, maybe transatlantic, why not?
Tess the Musical. As the guys said, you can have a look in the description. There'll be some links to hopefully go and check out the album, see what you think.
Yeah, you can listen to the entire thing right now. So get down there, get to the website and let us know in the comments what you think. We're the Breaker Leggers and hopefully bringing you more exclusives soon. Bye!